Wednesday before the event, that morning, I think about 9 o'clock or something like that, the Public Works Director gave me a call and said, we've got a phone call. Somebody said they're going to be here about 20 minutes from the White House. I asked, what his title was, and all he would tell, Tom was, I'm with the White House. So
he didn't have a title. He just said, I'm with the White House. I thought it was somebody spoofing me. So I was about ready to hang up on him, and I thought, no, I better not. I better listen, hear him out. So I just to err on the side of safety, I sent an email to Jeff McCormick. I said, why don't you meet me down at the park? Because I'm about to meet some kind of crazy down there that's from the White House.
Told Tom, I said, I don't think it's a prank. I said, the president is planning a trip through Minnesota, and maybe very well be they're looking to stop, in Cannon Falls.
What they told me was a few weeks ago they had their advance team out, was looking at different sites in southern Minnesota, and actually on their way back up to fly back to DC, they stopped in Cannon Falls for lunch, and when they did, they really liked the downtown area, and probably the assumption was because afterwards he was going to stop to do his eat and meet people sort of thing, and they wanted a downtown that not only kind of had that nice historic look but also was active, no vacant buildings, things like that. So they really liked that part. Then they checked out some of the parks and decided that just with the location and things like that it would work out maybe pretty well.
So we proceeded to look at 4 parks that day. They wanted to go to John Birch Field, and then they looked at East Side. They really liked that as well, but there were security concerns.
White House staff would pick the site they thought would look the best on camera, those sort of things. Then they'd have to get the Secret Service to sign off on it and go with it from there. So the White House staff really liked East Side Park just because it was a nice neighborhood setting, but the Secret Service just said it was a really tough place to secure.
Then we went out to Lake Billsby, and they really liked that, but there was even bigger security concerns with the open hillside across the road.
We ultimately told them that you might want to check out Lower Hannah's Bend Park as a good option too, and that actually wasn't even on their list of parks to take a look at.
Well, why don't we look at Hannah's Bend? They went down, looked at that, and the river behind, the White House staff liked it. Secret Service liked it.
I think one of the funniest parts is when we first got to Lower Hannah's Bend Park, it was probably a group of 20 of us that come walking down the paved trail there to get to the park, and a lot of them are the Secret Service in their suits and glasses, and there was a family fishing on the bank, and the father turns around and kind of took a look at us. He goes, "Oh, so what? Obama's coming?" And it was pretty funny because the White House staff and the Secret Service all kind of looked at us, and then they just kind of looked away and kept walking, and nobody really answered him.
It was surrounded by a large amount of public property, which is much easier, to set up perimeters and control than, a large amount of private property. And so Secret Service signed off on it. White House staff is walking around with their Blackberries taking pictures, and I'm assuming emailing them back to Washington, D.C., and they said, we'll get back to you.
When I first found out, I called the mayor, and I just said, this is kind of what's happening.
I was traveling back from Savannah, Georgia. Happened to be in between Athens, Georgia, and Franklin, North Carolina, when I get a call from Aaron Reeves, the city administrator, who says, we're going to have company coming on Monday. I said, well, that's good. He says the president's going to be stopping by for a visit. I said, that's super. And so I said, let me know what we need to get done, and keep in touch, and we will get everything taken care of.
So then that night, that Wednesday, it was a lot of people asking what's going on, and we're all saying, well, we have nothing to really we can tell you. And Thursday was pretty much that same way, although I think by Thursday a lot of people knew already, and it was just that we had to wait until the White House officially made their press release.
And when they did do the press release, actually, somehow or other, when people checked on the internet, the Duluth News-Tribune had an article on Thursday night, and most other people didn't have it on the news until Friday.
Starting Thursday, it was this running list of things that the White House or the Secret Service needed.
They wanted benches, then they wanted chairs and tables, and they wanted benches, so I probably had 30 or 40 calls just about picnic tables and benches back and forth between the White House staff and myself, before they finally decided on picnic tables.
So it was all this kind of round and around of what they might want, what they might need. Then it was, can we take these tree branches down? I'm like, that's fine, take tree branches down. And then the Secret Service would come and say, no, don't touch those.
At one point, I thought we were going to have to start taping branches back on because we took branches off, and then the Secret Service wanted branches back up. So it was like, well, now what do we do?
What was unique for us was that we were planning a major presidential visit that would occur in our city with less than 3 days to plan it. So on Thursday, I'd already roughed out the numbers of where I was going to put people, how many I would need, and went to work and trying to find the additional bodies. And what I figured I had to come up with was between 35 and 40 additional officers.
A lot of it was stuff that we had to work with other groups on, so it was, well, okay, we're going to use this site, but we need parking at the fair. I had to coordinate with the Cannon Valley Fair, and the hard part was letting them know, well, we don't know for sure if we need this yet, but we might need this, and if we do need it, it'll be a big event, but I can't tell you what it is.
Knowing that the president's going to be coming down probably 494 or 55 to 52, I knew that the cities that touch those would be busy already with details, as would Dakota County Sheriff's Office. So I contacted police departments that were not on that route and made a request for officers. And I contacted Apple Valley, Lakeville, Burnsville, Farmington, Hastings, Red Wing, Kenyon.
A lot of working with the school. One, we needed the buses.
Well, we get there and they all need to be moved. All the bus drivers are gone, and it's about 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, and all the buses need to be moved up by 4 feet. So I have to get in each bus, and the Secret Service are handing me the bus keys, because they're all labeled, hand them up there, and I have to move all the buses up by 4 feet. Then another agent comes up and says, we need a press hole of 3 feet, so the press can get through. The buses were used as the barricade, obviously. And so they said, okay, all 16 of these buses need to be moved back by 3 feet. So 11 o'clock at night, I'm moving all these buses back in the dark.
We needed a backup site in case it rained.
We were told that the field house, because it had a exposed wall to Highway 19, was not usable. But they loved our field house just because it was so beautiful and things like that. Mm-hmm. But then we were also told that the auditorium, because it only seats 500, they were worried about numbers a little bit, but that would have been the rain site.
So we spent about 2 or 3 days scrambling what to do, what not to do, what can we fix, what can we not fix, they wanted, there's a circle of benches down there, they wanted those out. There's a fire ring down there, we had to cut the metal pipes and take those out because they didn't want those.
Water jugs and seating and just the miscellaneous things that kept coming in. A podium, but it couldn't have a base to it. It had to only have a top.
Recycling dumpsters that the county has down there, we had to get those out of there because of any possibility of explosives. We had to get everything as normal as we could, but we couldn't add any garbage cans. We couldn't do anything like that. Whatever they had accounted for, that's what they wanted to see Monday. They didn't want to see anything extra.
They needed something to put his microphone and his water bottle on. And they said, oh, the school's got to have a stool. I said, oh, of course, we'll get you a stool. And we're writing these lists down in our cars, driving all these things back and forth. And they said, well, the stool can't have it. We would really prefer it to not have metal and no back on it. It's just going to be something to set things on, but at a certain height. Well, sure enough, I looked over this whole school. And do you think we could find one stinking,
anything?
Wooden stool? And then as I got home and I'm exhausted and I'm sitting there and I look down and my kitchen stools are perfect and my kids eat on them every single morning. So it was this aha moment. I think I called you. I'm like, I got the stool.
We would get these requests. They would seem to come like at 10 o'clock on Saturday night. Oh yeah, we need a Boy Scout or a Cub Scout to do the Pledge of Allegiance. And okay, I have no idea, and that's when I contact Beth at the school.
I didn't want to just rattle off a name. I really thought about a child that would represent Cannon Falls and his Cub Scouts and being a worship leader for his church and things. I mean, there were a million kids I could have picked, and my own daughter would have loved to do it, and your son would have loved to do it.
And then it was, oh yeah, we need somebody to sing the national anthem. Okay, I have no idea, but Beth would know.
I had called her cheerleading coach because I had no idea how to get a hold of Indy in the middle of the summer. And I sent her a text and I said, "This is Mrs. Geese. I need you to text me back." And ha ha, yeah, right. And I said, "Sweetie, it really is me." Well, she didn't believe me, so, we went back and forth. I proved that it was Mrs. Geese texting her.
I did get a phone call late in the afternoon from Rich Wisniewski, the Cannon Falls Police Department, saying that the White House wanted some postcards from Cannon Falls, and did we have any? And I said, "Yes, we do. How many do you need?" And he said, 75. And I said, "Okay, well, when do you need them?" And he said, "Now."
I've got about 9 hours of sleep between Thursday and Monday's event.
And so it was kind of this, a lot of, different things going on at once. So it was a very busy weekend of just trying to get everything coordinated and figured out. And then the bigger part is when the event was announced and the tickets, it was just nonstop contact from everyone about tickets.
It was a zoo for a while. I mean, we had calls coming in, we had news crews here, we had citizens walking in. Everybody wanted to know how to get a ticket.
Oh, it was just crazy. It was really crazy around here. The phone just wouldn't quit ringing. It was, I had so much to do that day, but then I only, with everything else, it was just like I didn't really get anything done that day. It was kind of a blur, it really was.
When I got here Friday morning, my phone rang constantly, all day long. We have call waiting, and I was jockeying phone calls all day long. Some from people wondering about tickets and how they could get to see the president. Others were from the media, looking at interviews with businesses from Cannon Falls, what we were doing to prepare.
My job was just to make sure that everybody felt welcome and try to answer as many questions as I could by the media, because they all wanted to know why Cannon Falls and more about Cannon Falls, and they all tried to ask different questions about different things, and it actually was fun but busy time.
The mayor came in and said we should be giving a gift to the president.
Well, the president's coming. Let's give him something uniquely, from the Cannon Falls area, something that he can take back.
Luke Corman and I went over to the winery and asked them to donate a couple bottles of wine. And then I went out to the Cannon Valley Coffee House and asked them for a bag of locally roasted coffee beans.
A book on the history of Cannon Falls, and I was able to get a free round of golf pass and a hat from the Cannon Golf Club for him. So, as he is a big golfer, and when he came back to town last Tuesday, I was hoping he'd give me a call to go play golf, but.
And so we put that in a basket, and to my knowledge, it was presented to probably the White House staff to give to the president at some time.
A lot of it, we weren't even aware that we were responsible for until the last minute. Like the ticket issue, they said, "Can we use the city hall for tickets?" I said, "Yep, that's fine. When you need it open, all this stuff." And then when the time came, we assumed they were handling we've never given out tickets or anything like this. We didn't know how to do it. And they said, "Oh, well, we'll be in here to hand out the tickets, but you guys can figure out how to make that work." So
Found out that they were going to handle the tickets, not the queuing up and getting people, lined up and that type of thing. So then I had to create a plan for how we were going to do that.
At 6 o'clock is when the line was allowed to form. And initially they got a little card that had a number on it.
And all those were no guarantees. All that did was tell us if you had this one, we would put you between 387 and 389. At 500, I said, I don't think there's going to be more than 1,000. If everybody here takes 2, we're going to, exceed that. And people kept saying, I want one. I'm going to wait. I'm going to see. And when we hit 1,000, I just said, no, we've got to stop. I think 2 things are important when you're dealing with those types of situations. 1 is safety, and 2 is information. And we tried to keep them informed as best we could. The one question that was repeatedly answered is, how many tickets are there? And we did not know. Once the White House was ready, we started bringing in people. They were telling us, you know, bring in 20 people at a time, and then it was down to 10, then it was to 5, then it was back up to 10, and then it was to 5, and you know, then we finally brought the last people in, and they came out and announced to everybody that the tickets were gone.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out. We regret to inform you that we are now out of tickets for the general public. Once again, thank you for coming out.
And I was very concerned about that point, and I didn't have to be. The crowd was fabulous. There was a groan, and we tore off the ends of the tape so that people could get out, and they just exited.
When I came in Monday morning about 4:30 a.m., the park was lit up like daylight. That's how light it was down there. That's when all the news crews were already down there, and the lighting specialist.
It was great to see the town in such an atmosphere. When I got here at 5 o'clock, there were already people in their chairs out front, marking out their spot.
It was just neat watching the people in town, watching the kids, watching their faces light up. And I think that was probably the biggest part of it for me, was watching the kids. Because the kids, you just, like, they all of a sudden thought, Cannon Falls, my little town, he's here.
It was very exciting and busy downtown.
I thought of it like a party on Main Street. I mean, everybody was in wonderful mood. They were all patient. We were very busy in here.
We were asked to volunteer, or find 15 volunteers to help park cars. So we really didn't know what that meant either, but we got there that morning and they basically told us, you know, park them however you want, but you won't be going in to see the president. So, and we were fine with that. We expected nothing. We were just going to park and go home. And then we were heading towards our cars and they said, oh no, you have 10 minutes to get down onto the, you know, by the stage. We expect you to be in there too, so.
I mean, it was just such a beautiful day. You know, the river behind was just kind of flowing perfectly, and we had people that would actually called afterwards and asked how they did that blue screen behind to get that look that way.
Why Cannon Falls, President Obama, Town Hall meeting 8:15:11, and on the back it says why not.
Her friend Olivia was down there and her family got tickets too. So afterwards they were visiting with Amy Klobuchar, and they asked Olivia if she knew Vanessa, and she said, "Is she that type of gal that would really even ask that question?" And Olivia's like, "Oh yes."
When he finished at the park, then quite a few came and stood in front of the bakery and came inside hoping that he would come here, but he went over to the deli, and we're just glad that he came into town and spent some time here.
The White House liaison ordered the sandwich expressly from me. The owner and I were there when she came in. We had a quick meeting. She said, "This is going to happen. It's going to happen in about a minute. All of the other people have already ordered. I'm going to go ahead and place an order for a sandwich right now. These two agents are going to come back with you and watch you prepare this sandwich."
He got there, he greeted the whole deli, and he wanted to talk about our deployments. That was the first part of it. So we went around the table and talked about how many deployments we had, where we went, what kind of issues we ran into then. We talked a lot about the VA system, talked a lot about finding work when we get home and how that correlates with, you know, our military experience, how we can get it put on a resume to make ourselves marketable, you know, to get jobs. I told him I was jealous that he got to meet the Packers, because the Packers went to the White House the week before he came here, and he didn't like that too much because he's a Bears fan.
One of the local businessmen actually went to stop traffic on 19 on one side, and another fellow that was just wearing shorts and looked like a tourist talked to the semi driver and then went to talk to the people who pulled up right behind the semi thinking they were going to turn too. And he kind of waved to them to back up, and they kind of looked at him like, "Who, me?" And then he pulled out a badge and evidently it was someone of authority, and so they all backed up and they got the semi-driver turned around and he was able to go back on 19.
There was a gentleman selling vegetables, had a vegetable stand up at, well, I call it the Oasis or the old FINA station here on the north end of town, and it was a Secret Service agent, had a vegetable stand. Yeah.
Oh,
And
he was posing?
yes, and I said,
Oh,
and all I
really?
could think of is, well, I wonder where he got his vegetables
Yeah.
from.
But it's cute.
Yeah, and I thought, no, who would buy vegetables on a day like today when the president's in town? So, I mean, I was just kind of curious. I wonder if he sold much that day.
We got a lot of very positive comments back from the White House staff and the Secret Service about how, cooperative everybody was, that, we just kind of made it happen for them if they needed something.
Very receptive. Other law enforcement agencies, the city of Red Wing brought some barricades over. Everybody's very good about helping out. They didn't think twice about, going the extra mile for the president.
The nice part was afterwards, there was online, in newspapers, on TV, all the reports, everything basically was, historic Cannon Falls, beautiful Cannon Falls, just everything seemed so positive about the community. There was not, even when they discussed the protests, they discussed how polite the protesters were. So it shed such a positive light in the city.
An old Navy chief buddy of mine saw it and saw me on TV, and he sent me an email saying, "Is this the same old crotchety chief I was stationed with in the Navy?" So, it got seen nationally. My family back home saw it, and they thought it was really neat.
No matter what party line you fall on, I don't know if it's just the military in me or what, but that is our president of our United States, and I just was so proud. And I wasn't surprised. I'm so proud of Cannon Falls, I can hardly stand it. So I feel like it was a no-brainer that he chose to come here. But
Yeah.
it was pretty
Yeah, I
remarkable.
agree. It wasn't necessarily, your political views. It was, and it shouldn't be about that. It was about the event itself.
We were fortunate enough to have him come here, and I thought we could at least put on our best show for him.
Hopefully, this will lead into something. People will see Cannon Falls, its charm, and maybe it'll lead into something for business. Bring more folks to town that want to come in to visit Cannon Falls and, increase our tourism and put Cannon Falls even more on the map.
This was a boon for the Chamber of Commerce. We had perfect weather. We had the President of the United States. Our downtown looked beautiful. Our citizens were wonderful. You couldn't have asked for anything better.
I think that'll be something that people will be talking about for a long time.